Why is the original 1979 film called Alien, when we now know that it wasn't an alien?
How was it not an alien? It's still an alien. It's an extraterrestrial life form. It's a life form that's not from Earth. It's an alien. The idea that there were biological weapons was there since the first movie, so now that we know they are created biological weapons, that doesn't mean that they're any less alien than we thought they were originally. What a bizarre thing to say. Alien is an extraterrestrial, originating, existing, or occurring outside the Earth or its atmosphere. This is, it's still an alien.
How did David create alien eggs without a queen alien?
That's, one of the things we don't know exactly, but he probably used Shaw's body. That's why she had this gaping slit on her stomach.
Why didn't the crew of the Covenant wear space helmets when landing on a weird alien planet?
I've heard this a lot. Spacesuits are to protect you against pressure and poisonous atmosphere. When they realize they don't need a pressurized suit and it's a breathable atmosphere, why would they wear a spacesuit? That's like wearing a hard hat when you're not in a construction zone. Sure, you could get hit in the head any time, but you don't just go around wearing a hard hat unless you have a specific reason to. They're already going in a huge risk by going into this alien planet. It's not like them wearing a spacesuit is going to guarantee they're safe. That's not going to protect them from an alien creature coming and ripping their face off. That's not going to protect them from acid rain. That's not going to protect them by lightning storms. That's not going to protect them from a million things. Like, they're already in huge danger. What is the spacesuit really going to do? I mean, in this case, it would have saved them from the black goo, but they didn't know that. What if it would have just latched on to the suit and melted through? You know, we don't know the evolution of this black goo. The aliens have acid blood. Maybe it would have just corroded the suit and gone through anyway. Like, they're also going here to see whether they can live on this planet. So how are they going to make that decision if they go on here with a suit? They kind of need to be there without a suit for a little while before they say, hey, we're going to live on this planet forever. But, oh yeah, before we make that decision, let's never take our suit off.
Just to be safe.
Why didn't the crew wait to see if those terrible electrical storms would pass before trying to land on the planet?
All right, let's take this process of thought through how it would have worked out. So they veer from their original destination, going to this alien planet. They get there, and it looks like they can land. How long do you think they should just orbit the planet or whatever until they decide it's safe? How long should they stay there until they are sure there are no natural disasters that could harm them? So you stay there for a week until there's no electrical storms? They don't know how often these storms and hurricanes and stuff happen. So they could be there for a month, and then next week the storm will come. How are they supposed to know how long to wait? It's easy to nitpick it on this little thing, but put it into practice. How long are they supposed to wait outside the planet?
How come they didn't notice with their spaceship scanners that there was a gigantic alien city within walking distance of where they landed?
Why?
Mike, this isn't Star Trek. Just because this is a sci-fi movie doesn't mean they have all the Star Trek technology. So you're talking about a scanner that's never been seen in these alien movies. We've never seen them scan the surface of a planet and tell us about the structure and whether this is a man-made building versus a mountain or versus a tree. Like, that would require some kind of artificial intelligence and some sort of device that could map the surface of the planet and tell us what the shapes are. Like, this is the shape of a house, this is a shape of a body, this is a shape of an alien spaceship. Maybe the ship just doesn't have that technology.
Why wasn't the crew at all suspicious of David? A man that shows up looking like an evil wizard and is surrounded by thousands and thousands of dead bodies.
They were suspicious of David. But then they realized David was part of the old crew. He was part of the Prometheus, so that automatically makes him friendly, and he's a synthetic. Sort of seen as being incorruptible, like the perfect human.
Coincidence.
Thanks, Ridley Scott.
What do you mean what? What is a coincidence? Nothing is a coincidence. You guys are just saying random words and looking at the camera condescendingly.
Why would Wayland create an android that's hair grew?
Did you see Prometheus? They made him look like humans because we're more comfortable around people who look like us. It's so that some robots can have longer hair, so that you can change their hairstyle. Like, what if you cut his hair one day, and then you're like, hey, I want my $10 million robot to have longer hair. Oh well, better send him back to the factory because he can't grow hair.
How come David cut his hair with scissors, but in the next scene it looked perfectly coiffed?
What does coiffed mean?
Why did the chestburster hatchling look like a little tiny version of an alien instead of the way that it looked before? It came out of the same looking egg and grew up to be the same looking xenomorph. Did somebody forget to watch the old movie just to double check what it looked like?
I know you guys are talking like dullards on purpose because these are such basic questions that even a complete retard would be asking about them. Except you're really nitpicking fine little details of the first movie. Like, it didn't look like the original alien had hands, but this chestburster had hands. All the chestbursters in the sequels had hands. It's not the same species yet. The Xeno from Covenant doesn't have all the biomechanical attachments yet. It's just like a natural biological form of the Xenos from the first movie. So these aren't the exact same lineage of Xenos yet, so sure, they're not going to be exactly the same. And who cares if he had hands or not? It's like, well, I saw a human being once, and he had Asian features, and then I saw a human who had black skin. I don't get it.
So the engineers created all life on Earth. Then Wayland created David. Then David created the Xenomorph. So why was there a mural of a Xenomorph in the caves in Prometheus?
Is that really 100% sure? A mural of the exact xenomorph from the movie Alien? Did you have some sort of scientific analysis? Did you measure the proportions of each part of its body and figured out this is the exact same xenomorph that David created? I don't think so. Look at it. It's you can tell it's different already. First of all, it's completely standing upright, and the Xeno that David created walks on all four legs like the alien from Alien 3, and then it looks different from the aliens movies. The Cameron movie has like bony ridges on its skull. It's not smooth like that. So this could be the Deacon from Prometheus. How do you know it's not the Deacon? How do you know it's not some other variation of the xenomorph that they happen to have evolved from the black goo?
Did David not create the Xenomorph? In all of his experimentation, he just created a being that looked exactly like one that had already existed?
Yeah, because he was using the black goo. Are you watching different movies, Jay? Are you mixing up Star Trek too? All these creatures come from the black goo and they look like Xenos. So obviously if David is making creatures with the black goo, they're gonna look like Xenos too.
That's a pretty big fucking coincidence.
Yeah, huge coincidence that the black goo creates Xenos. Huge. Oh my god. I thought it was going to create a Care Bear.
Cosmic coincidence.
Thank you, Ridley Scott.
David's original mission was to travel with Wayland to the secret planet so that Wayland could find immortality. After Wayland died, suddenly David decided to become a Frankenstein man who designs monsters. For no reason at all.
For no reason at all. Do you need plot spoon-fed to you, Mike? Do you need Ridley Scott to, like, take a little spoon and it's like, open your mouth, here comes plot point? Dude, the themes throughout both of these movies have been about creating and fathers, and one species gives life to another species, and that's what makes them important. Just look at Wayland's arc in Prometheus. He thinks he's great and deserves immortality because he's a creator. He wants to meet his creator and tell his creator that, look, I've created things like you've created, things where we're equal. I've finally reached your level of greatness. David basically grew up like this. His father treated him like this. So of course he's going to inherit that sort of view on the world. Creation gives meaning to his life. What does he have to help him create? He's got the black goo. I mean, again, the black goo doesn't create Care Bears. He's not going to go out and create this lovely, puffy unicorn animal that just makes rainbows and magic. He has the black goo. That's all he has to work with. And the black goo creates horrible, disgusting Xenos.
It's because David wanted to create the perfect organism. I don't know why he thinks the Xenomorph's the perfect organism.
Because he looks at them and sees sort of their purpose. They're a killing machine. So I so far as them being a good killing machine, they're the perfect organism. No, he wasn't talking about they'd be really good at making movies and literature and art pieces. He's talking about the perfect organism, like a cockroach is a perfect organism because it survives a nuclear blast.
Can't talk, it's ugly, and it can't create nothing. Creation seems pretty important to David.
A xenomorph also can't reproduce without the aid of another species. It also drools way too much.
These are all red herrings. That's obviously not what he's talking about when he's talking about they're the perfect organism. It's about them being like a cockroach.
It also pointlessly and violently attacks everything it sees. These attacks usually result in its own death. How incredibly stupid of it.
Yeah, maybe in these few movies that have human characters that we need to be around, but I'm sure in the regular life of the xenospecies, it kills everything it comes in contact with and doesn't get killed. Let's watch the movie from the Haley's Hope colony from Aliens that just tells a story of everybody who died there and just the xenos took over the place.
I'm smarter than a xenomorph.
Why did David kill all the engineers with the black goo when he landed on their planet?
That's also a plot that doesn't need to be spoon-fed to you. I don't know, maybe because an engineer tore his head off and killed his father? I mean, just throwing that out there. Over the course of Prometheus and this movie, he's figured out that the engineers are a species of fucking assholes.
And how did the black goo turn into an airborne pollen-like substance?
Again, this doesn't really need to be spoon-fed to you. He dropped the entire payload of black goo on that planet and then 10 years have passed. Don't you think that's going to have some sort of interaction with the ecosystem there? Some mushrooms had black goo in them, and then they stepped on them, and little particles floated in the air and went through their nose and their ear. I mean, what part of that is hard to comprehend? Why do you need this spoon-fed to you?
Is that what happens when it's exposed to air? Did David know it was going to do that? Why send so many crew members down to check out the mysterious planet that no one's ever heard of before?
Safety in numbers? I mean, why not? Like, I feel like it would go either way. Had it only been 2 crew members, you would have been like, why do they split up the people? It's such a horror movie trope. Why wouldn't they just go in a big group to protect each other? It's random criticism.
Why not just send the android down first to take some basic readings?
What? Maybe they took all the readings they needed. I mean, from what we saw in the movie, it's not just in the atmosphere. The black goo is in the mushrooms that they stepped on. And it's probably in a few more places, but it's not just freely floating around to where you would get it. You would be able to tell if you took a reading.
Then they'd know if they didn't have to wear fucking helmets.
Why bother? Just roll the dice.
Yeah, they were rolling the dice. That's why Daniels was pissed. Like, nobody doesn't acknowledge that they were taking a risk when they came down here. Even the captain tells her that he fucked up big time by coming to this planet. We all know they were taking a risk. This isn't a plot hole. It's not like this wasn't acknowledged in the movie.
The Wayland Corp knew exactly where Wayland was going. Why didn't anybody ever travel to that planet to investigate what happened?
I don't know. It might have something to do with why Wayland faked his death. Maybe he didn't want his company coming back for him. I mean, he had like a day left to live, and everybody thought he was dead. So that's probably why they didn't come looking for Wayland, because his trip with them was off the record.
If they did, they'd find a gigantic crashed alien spaceship that fell over on its side, bits and pieces of debris from the exploded Prometheus ship, the flattened remains of Wayland's daughter, Wayland's body, the bodies of all the people that went with Wayland, the dead body of a blue alien and a dead squid.
Why do you keep calling the engineers blue? They have white skin. What part of that looks blue to you? This isn't Avatar. This isn't Star Trek. Stop mixing up your series. And the ones in this movie have human tinted pink-ish skin tone. So out of all the engineer races we've seen, none of them have blue skin.
Black goo spilt all over the place. A little escape pod that shot out of the Prometheus before it crashed into the ship. And lots of other clues as to exactly what happened.
And don't forget about the little kind of alien creature. What happened to him?
Did he find a home with a nice family to live with?
Well, maybe they're going to go back to LV for whatever, the Prometheus planet, in one of the 25 sequels they're making, and we will see the Deacon still running around and killing people. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in the next movie, being that David took control of the Covenant and can basically fly anywhere he wants. So why didn't Wayland Yutani know about the planet from Prometheus and know about the engineer ship there and all that stuff you mentioned? Maybe they do. In the original Alien movie, somehow they set up Ash to sort of save the alien creature and bring it back, so clearly they already knew about the xenomorphs by the time Alien happens. Why are you thinking this huge evil corporation didn't do what you're saying they do? Maybe they knew everything that happened. Maybe they know that that planet's full of black goo, and the last ship didn't have a good time when they visited the planet, so they don't want to risk bringing that lethal virus back to Earth. And maybe just having an expedition out to the Prometheus planet is a big deal. I mean, they only sent one ship. If it was so easy and such a high priority event for them, why didn't they send a whole fleet? Maybe this is like a corporation that has money to deal with, and flying out and exploring very deep, far away alien planets with the possible risk of finding nothing and wasting all your stock shareholder money. Maybe that's keeping them from doing that. The same reason why corporations today aren't flying to Mars. There's not a lot of money in there right now, and there's a whole lot of risk. Maybe they don't know what happened. Maybe for all they know, the ship just lost communications and they were marooned, and it just had a very boring end, and they probably had some sort of order: if you don't hear from us, don't come rescue us because it'll cost too much money.
Thanks, Ridley Scott. In Alien vs.
Random condescension.
Predator, the aliens have been coming to Earth since at least 2996 BC.
Those movies aren't canon. Everybody knows that.
But David didn't create the xenomorphs until 2103.
Might as well bring up the old Alien comic books that had the engineers as not being like a humanoid person in a suit. They used to think that race of creatures were that suit, elephant-like creatures with trunks.
Those dates don't line up. I guess the Alien vs. Predator films aren't canon anymore.
You think?
In recent interviews, Ridley Scott said that the reason why the engineers wanted to kill the population of Earth was that 2,000 years ago, humans killed Jesus.
That isn't a recent interview. That was like pre-production stuff when they were doing Prometheus, and then they scrapped that idea. That's not even part of his behind-the-scenes thought process of what he thinks happened. Like that's been scrapped.
Who was an engineer. I guess that answers the question of whether Jesus was white or black. I guess he was blue.
This isn't Avatar. They're white.
Thanks, Ridley Scott.
As advanced as the engineers were, how did they not detect that the incoming ship only had one android on it?
Did you look at the shot when they were pointing at that city and the creatures that were there? First of all, that obviously wasn't the same species of engineers that were in Prometheus. Clearly the ones in Prometheus have advanced technology and weapons, and these are primitives. They don't have any technology. Look at it. They're like ancient humans at this point. They're probably a much more recent breed of life that the engineers created, just like they created life on Earth, only these haven't had enough time to develop technology. Look at that docking station they have above the city, and notice that it's completely different than the way the city looks. Being that the engineers came from this planet, and David assumed that this was their home world, no, it was probably just somewhere else that they were visiting from one of their previous creations, and this is a docking station that they left. Point is, this big docking station doesn't belong to the people that they're bombing. It belongs to the engineers. That's why it seems to link up with David's ship. It's the same technology.
It was thousands of years old.
Didn't their spaceship technology advance at all?
No.
Hey, maybe they got their ships exactly how they wanted them.
Mike, did you not see the engineers that David bombed? They look way more humanoid than the other engineers. These isn't the same frickin' species. Ridley Scott shouldn't have to spoon feed you everything.
And they didn't need to improve on anything.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just like the original 1979 film Alien.
Weak, lazy, terrible points. Alien Covenant was great.